At first glance, this whole story seems to be about a stolen silver cup. But honestly, the cup? It's just a prop. What's really going on here is a high stakes psychological test, one that was carefully designed to see if a group of men, totally haunted by their past, had actually changed. And that brings us right to the core question of this entire saga. It's a question we all bump into in our own lives, right? How can you ever be sure that someone who hurt you once won't do it again? Well, this whole narrative is basically one giant, elaborate experiment to find an answer. So, picture this. We're in Egypt. A really powerful governor, Joseph, has just had his brothers, who he hasn't seen in years, over for a meal. As they're getting ready to leave, he pulls his head steward aside and gives him this really strange set of instructions. He's setting a trap, and believe me, it's way more complex than just catching a thief. I mean, just look at how calculated this plan is. First, you have this act of what looks like pure generosity. Fill their bags with food. Then, a little test of their character. Put their money back. And finally, the masterstroke. He plants his own very valuable silver cup, but not just in any bag. It has to be in the sack of Benjamin, the youngest, the one their father adores. The bait is perfectly set. So you can imagine the brothers are heading out, probably feeling this huge sense of relief, The trip was a success. But that feeling doesn't last long. Joseph's steward comes galloping after them and hits them with this heavy accusation. Why have you repaid good with evil? The mind games start immediately. And the brothers are just floored. You can practically hear their outrage in this response. They immediately remind the steward, hey, we were honest enough to bring back the money we found last time. If we returned money we found by accident, why in the world would we deliberately steal a cup? Okay, and this is where you see just how confident they are. They're so sure of their innocence that they make this incredibly rash vow together. They say, look, whoever you find it with, he can die, and the rest of us will become your slaves. They're putting all their chips on the table, together, which, if you know their history, is a massive change. Now the steward, who's basically an actor in this play Joseph wrote, offers a little bit of fake mercy. He says, no, only the one who's guilty will be my slave. The rest of you can go home. See what he did there? He just raised the stakes. He gave the innocent brothers a perfect excuse to abandon one of their own if things go south. And then the search starts, and you can just feel the anxiety building. And he doesn't just check the bags randomly. Oh no, he's methodical. He creates this slow burn of suspense. He starts with Reuben, the oldest, and goes right down the line. With every sack that comes up clean, the brothers must be feeling a little more confident, but the spotlight is getting smaller and smaller, until finally there's only one sack left. And there it is. The hammer falls, the trap springs, and it catches exactly who it was meant to catch, the youngest brother, the most vulnerable one, the one their father loves more than anything. I mean, the silence after that discovery must have been absolutely deafening. Their reaction is instant, and it's unified. They all tear their clothes, which was the ultimate sign of grief and despair back then. But here's the crucial part. They don't blame Benjamin. They don't point fingers or try to save their own skin. No, they share his fate. They load their donkeys back up, and they all head back to the city, together. So they're dragged back in front of Joseph, and they all just fall on the ground before him. The power difference is just immense. And at this moment, one brother, Judah, steps up to be the spokesman for the whole family. He's the one who's going to make their case. Now, what Judah says here it's just fascinating. He doesn't argue about the cup. He doesn't say we're innocent. Instead, he sees this as some kind of divine payback. He says, God has found out our iniquity. It's almost like decades of guilt over what they did to their other brother have just been bubbling under the surface, and now they believe they finally deserve this punishment. And right here, this is the moment the entire test has been building towards. Joseph rejects their offer to all be slaves and gives them an out. He says, only the guilty one stays. The rest of you, you're free, go on home. He is literally forcing them to make the exact same choice they made years ago. Are you going to sacrifice one brother to save yourselves? But Judah doesn't take the out. He steps forward, probably risking this ruler's wrath. And he begins one of the most powerful and heartfelt speeches you'll ever hear. He's not just fighting for Benjamin's life anymore. He's fighting for his father's. Judah just lays it all out on the table. He paints this gut-wrenching picture of their dad, Jacob, an old man whose entire life is now wrapped up in this one kid, Benjamin.
He explains that Benjamin is the last surviving son of Jacob's favorite wife, Rachel, because his other son, Joseph, is long dead. Or so they think.
And then he starts quoting his father's own words, which are just dripping with grief. He makes Joseph understand that their dad, Jacob, already lost one of these two sons. He's convinced that if he loses Benjamin too, the sorrow will literally kill him. Judah is making it crystal clear. Enslaving Benjamin is basically a death sentence for their father.
That phrase right there, that's the heart of it all. It's not just about a father loving his son. It's deeper. Their very life forces are connected. One can't exist without the other. Judah is explaining a depth of connection that forces Joseph and us to see the real human cost of what's happening.
And then Judah makes it personal. He explains that he himself gave his word to their father. He put his own neck on the line, swearing he would bring Benjamin back safely and that he would bear the blame forever if he failed. He is personally on the hook for this.
So he's explained the family situation, he's explained the emotional trauma, he's put himself on the line, and it all builds to this one final breathtaking offer. And this is where you just have to pause and appreciate the transformation. Remember, this is the same Judah who years ago came up with the bright idea to sell his own brother Joseph into slavery for a handful of silver. Now, in almost the exact same situation, he does the complete opposite. It's a total 180. Driven by empathy and responsibility instead of greed. This is the moment. He begs the governor. He says, please let me take his place. He offers to become a slave in Egypt for the rest of his life if it means the boy can go home to their dad. It's the ultimate act of self-sacrifice. He ends his whole speech with this heartbreaking question. He's not just saying he doesn't want to go back home without Benjamin, he's saying he can't. He cannot physically bring himself to watch the grief that this news would inflict on his father. He has truly, fundamentally changed. And with that, it's over. The test is done. Joseph has his answer. Led by Judah, the brothers proved they wouldn't abandon one of their own, even when they were given the perfect excuse to do so. They stood together. They have changed. So, the trap worked. The test has been passed. One man's profound change in character has been proven beyond a shadow of a doubt. The powerful governor, Joseph, now knows everything he needs to know. The only real question left is, what on earth is he going to do about it? What happens now?